Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight I'm joined by Lawrence Connolly. We're here to dissect and discuss Motherwell 0, Celtic 4. Academic at the end of the day, wasn't it, Lawrence?
I think they're from Hamilton, mate, not Motherwell, but, I like the Lanarkshire link.
You like that?
Yeah. So, I don't know if that was meant to be some,
It worked. It worked, unintentionally or otherwise.
But, listen, Abada, again, puts us in easy street, but actually I thought the Motherwell keeper, geez, what's he doing there? There was a bit of movement in the ball, but you're a keeper. You don't parry it out into the middle of the penalty box.
Did you say I'm a keeper?
No. So if you're a keeper.
Or if you're a keeper, right.
I think the ones described you as a keeper's Lindsay, but, that's another matter.
True. Actually, I thought Kelly had a decent game. I think he's performed pretty well against Celtic over a number of games. But I think the difference really between the second half and the first half, Lawrence, was just as basic as us taking the chances slightly better. We're going to be talking about the goals. We're going to be talking about the fact that Kyogo finally got on the score sheet, and I think it's going to do his confidence, or I hope it does his confidence, a worldly good. Any concerns from that performance? I know in the half-time bulletin we were talking about one or two wee niggly things we weren't happy with at the back.
No concerns that weren't there before the game. So, we're not taking enough of your chances. We're short at centre-half and short strike. I mean, Giacomakis went down, you're like, oh my God,
Exactly, yeah.
Yes. So, I think this thing's actually kind of clear for everyone to see, but we've got money in the bank, we've got a transfer window coming up. I'm pretty sure we can last
You've got Ange Postecoglou who can turn water into wine. You give him a £1 million footballer, he turns him into a £10 million footballer overnight.
But, it's things we can last after the World Cup, which is strange, when it is. But look back this time last year and where were we? We're really scraping by.
Yes, we were. Yeah.
This isn't scraping by now, but it is about building and improving the squad, isn't it? So, Hatate, jeez.
Yeah.
That was nice, wasn't it?
It was stunning. What I want to do is I want to bring in as many of the comments as possible for all the ladies and gentlemen who have tuned in this evening. Tell us where you're watching Acsom from. Stephen Murray. There's a name, Stephen Murray. There's been a couple of Stephen Murrays playing for Celtic.
Yep.
And actually there's been 3 on the books at Celtic, and there's also been an author by the name of Stephen Murray who wrote a couple of Celtic books, or has written so far a couple of Celtic books. Check them out. Kenny of the Celtic and 10 Men, or When 10 Men Won the League. Stevie Murray, also known as St Anthony on Twitter. Anyway, this particular Stevie Murray, I don't know if you were ever on the books at Celtic, Stephen, let me know. Hatate goal, a touch of the Ferenc Puskas goal in the 6-3 at Wembley. Good point. Sure, Ange will think that. Yeah, I mean, Puskas obviously a massive influence on Ange Postecoglou, but you can take it a wee bit further back than that, can't you? Because Jimmy Hogan, right? This is the thing. You go back to Hogan, and you go back to the influence that he had on that infectious 1950s Hungarian side who played football in an entertaining, free-flowing manner that you could almost say is the same kind of philosophy that Jock Stein had and Ange Postecoglou had. And then you look at the fact that Hogan, who implemented that, who was the coach of the Hungarian side, who implemented that in the likes of Ferenc Puskas, and who was still at Celtic when Jock Stein signed for Celtic. He was there as a coach as well. And then you look at the philosophies of both Stein and Ange Postecoglou, and there's the linkage. There's the linkage, although broken, between Big Jock and Big Ange as well. So nice one, Stephen, for bringing that up. It was a goal of absolute supreme quality, wasn't it?
Who brought Hogan to the club? You can even for the back, can't you? But it was just, that was beautiful feat, wasn't it? It's just goal to grace any game, wasn't it? You just absolute class. But Rio, a shout for player of the season. He's not doing any harm scoring goals like that.
No, and I think that when Hatate came in, when you looked at the age of him and the amount or lack of, I should say, football that he had played at senior level due to the university setup and how late some of the players come into the senior game, I think it was something around the 84 game mark that he had played when he signed for Celtic. And for a player who, at the time when he signed, was 23, it's not a lot of games. It's like a season and a bit for Callum McGregor. Not many games at all. And then he came in really, in a blaze of glory when he first entered the Celtic side. And people might say, well, he kind of faded, but you've got to look at his performance even in the 3-0 game against Rangers in February as being a vintage display. But near the end of the season, he spoke about being tired, both physically and mentally, Lawrence. But I think this season we've seen the real deal, the real Rio Hatate, the consistency. People have been critical of one or two of his games in recent times, but tonight, I mean, he's not scared to try that crossfield pass. I mean, the feet at the goal, just supreme quality. He's a player, and he's at an age as well, that he's a player that we really are going to have to fight to keep him. I know he's not even been at the club for a year yet, but he's going to get that kind of similar interest that Matt O'Reilly's been getting.
Definitely, I'm surprised it's not him over O'Reilly. But it's interesting you say, it's not even a season and a half for Callum McGregor, but at 23, how many games did McGregor played? That season at Notts County.
He made his debut at 21, Lawrence.
Debut at 21. So he's, I think Rio's just, I honestly think to be player of the season, just needs tonight wasn't too bad. Motherwell, we weren't too naughty, created a few chances, but we weren't leaving too much on our players, which we generally see in Scotland. So, I think O'Reilly stays fit. He'll be player of the season. For me, we've got midfield 3 to fill, generally. If Callum's fit, he's the first name, but Rio's the second name in that team sheet.
Oh, yeah. He's
Callum out, I'd say that he's the first name.
Now, we're talking about the midfield area, Lawrence, and I think what we need to also do is, obviously, we've not seen a great deal of Abildgaard, but, in the cameos that he's made, you can see that once he's up to full fitness, because of course he trained on his own, I think, for 3 months due to the situation that he was in at his parent club. I was going to say his previous club, his parent club. But he's a player, I think, that is shown in dispatches, shown in flashes that, again, he's going to be one of the ones knocking on the door for a first-team jersey, Lawrence. I like his aggressiveness. He's a combative kind of player by the looks of him, but he can also play a pass. He looks like a very astute centre. And again, whether or not we can make that permanent, you hope that we can. He looks like a real quality player, and from what I've seen of him.
Yeah, it looks decent, but it's the position he plays, isn't it? There's a lot of competition at Celtic for that. So if you're going to make him permanent, does that push get you further out the door? Probably
at the moment.
McGregor's here for forever, isn't he? Well, not forever, but until he retires. After that, who your backups? I can't see McCarthy going anywhere. I think he's done his stint outside of Scotland. He's happy where he is, and he's a reliable squad player. Robertson, I think we probably need to move on. He's not going to get his chance, is he?
No. And when you consider the fact he comes in as a teenager, I think he was he 18 when he made his debut, Robertson. Went away and done what you've got to do. He went away and done what Callum McGregor said as a captain. You've got to go out there and get games. It worked for him as a loanee with Notts County, like you mentioned before. And he's done everything that's been asked of him, but he's just not fancied. And there's been players in that situation previously, Lawrence. They get to an age, they've just not had enough first-team football for Celtic, and then a change of management, and they're let go. Players that were held in high esteem by previous managers. I'm thinking Liam and Ewan Henderson, and I would put Scott Robertson in that bracket as well. It's unfortunate because you always want to see a wave of talent coming through, the next generation coming through, but it does look as though his Celtic career's a non-starter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I think he's always showed up decent when he's played, but you've got to plan. When the manager sits down, he's got to plan his squad and their development. And if you're going to do that in game time, aren't you going to say, I want you to appear in so many games and so many minutes. These are the targets I want you to hit for the season. Well, reality Welsh, what can he be saying, about minutes on the park for him? What's realistic for him to get? Number of minutes with the number of people in front of him. I think, Welsh will struggle for minutes, but he's going to get more minutes, a lot more minutes than Robertson. So,
Do you even regard Robertson at this stage as it? I know he's been on the bench a couple of times, Lauren. Sorry to interject, but do you even regard him as a first team player? He's in the squad, but I can't put him in the same bracket as Stephen Welsh.
No,
Welsh,
definitely not. He's miles behind Welsh, isn't he? That's what I'm saying. I think Welsh needs to get him on. So I think Robertson, he's had his loan spell. I don't think it's going to work for him. I've just got too many people in that position just now. We're not selling McGregor, McCarthy, Gucci. O'Reilly's dropping back there. That's realistic what we need to do for him to get any kind of decent game time. So I think maybe time to sell him. It gives you some money to invest where you need to invest it. But yeah, it's a shame for him. But not everybody's going to make it. And I think he gave it a decent start when he came in, and he's done his spell away in loan. Anyway, enough about.
He'll find a club. He'll find a club, Lawrence. He certainly will.
He's shown, definitely. I mean, his club down south loved him. So
yeah, he's played about 80 games. He's played about 80 games in England, and his figures, etc., will be distributed. I'm sure the data will be distributed amongst clubs at that level that he performed well at. And sometimes you take that step back and you see where that takes you. Stephen Sloan, you're back. Good to see you. Some lovely football tonight. Some lovely goals. We're playing really well without McGregor, but obviously can't wait to see him back ASAP. I know that is the thing. I mean, when you consider like last season, McGregor played virtually the whole season. Lawrence injured. This is the thing, Yes, he was wearing that mask, but he was wearing it because he still was carrying an injury. Wasn't he fully healed?
That challenge. What was it? I think letting that go.
That was terrible.
No attempt to win the ball.
But that was the night. Remember with Gucci as well.
Yeah, I think Ange came out after the game saying he ended up telling his players, look, just avoid injury in this game because the ref's giving you zero protection. It's crazy, yeah. So you wonder how much it affected Callum, because it's got to affect his peripheral vision at times. But yeah, it'd be great to see him back. But it's also, at times you wonder what the team would do without him. And it's good to see, they can manage. We've got some cover there.
That's right. I think, last season you had that spine of the team with Hart, Carter Vickers, McGregor and Kyogo, who was a talisman last season, and you always kind of feared that any of those players getting injured would result in us being much, much weaker. And of course we do miss them, but I think we've managed pretty well. I'm going to bring this up. I find this quite interesting as well, because we spoke about it at half-time. Egyptian King comes in when Giakoumakis went down. I was hiding behind the sofa. Well, this is what we're saying, Lawrence, that's all it takes. All it takes is a bad fall, a strain, something muscular, and then you're scratching about. You have no backup, either up top or at centre half, and that's something we really need to strengthen.
It's our strikers. We tend to change them about 60-minute mark, don't they? So only two. You're going to need two fit strikers for every game, or it changes your whole style of play. It's not, you lose one. There's no way that Kyogo's going to be able to put that effort in for 90 minutes to the style that Ange wants, or Giakoumakis would be. God forbid you lose two. Where do you go?
I know.
So yeah, but we're really short there. Maybe the boys are. Maybe it's a wee bit of comfort. Both of them know they're getting minutes both games. Both of them know. If we're fit, we're going to get minutes every week. Maybe the third one would put a wee bit of pressure on them. I can't see all three of them getting minutes, so it could put a bit of pressure on and pick them up a bit. But yeah, we definitely need to strengthen there. But it's a cup game. Motherwell could put into this and take a few chances. They created a few bits, but it's fairly comfortable. Must have had 65-70% possession. I don't know. What do you think about 10 in target and maybe double that shots? But it was fairly comfortable in the end, wasn't it?
I think it was a comfortable win in the end. It's far more comfortable at full time than at half time, because obviously that goal, for me, there was a moment or two in that first half. You're thinking if they do hold on to the second half, it might, to half time rather, it might be a tricky game. But thankfully we got that breakthrough in the first half, and we built on that, like we spoke about at half time in the half time bulletin. But what I'm trying to do is bring up the stats. I'll bring them up just to have a look at just how dominant Celtic were this evening, because to the eye they certainly were. Now, Patrick, James Simpson, impressive second half, professional, absolutely, yeah, we were.
Especially after the second goal. But the second goal it changes the whole dynamic of the game, doesn't it? I still think, as well as Kelly performed, you're right. I like to try and turn that around a post, push it over the bar, or push it wide. You can't push it back in the middle of your penalty box. So I think a wee bit of fortune there, but geez, but we deserve a bit of fortune. We've not had a lot go for us this season in terms of luck, in terms of goals, is it? It's been in terms of what if and chances. So.
It has been. It's particularly in Europe. Lawrence, I'm going to bring up two comments about Rio Hatate. Duncan McKinley comes in first to say that he was the best player in the park. I can't see many people arguing with that. But then bringing the Egyptian King back in, Liverpool fan, of course, with a mistress in Celtic, perhaps, or is it the other way about? Let us know. Guys, we would definitely pay you 25 million for Rio. We fella is a baller, and that goal was slick. Absolutely. This is the thing that worries me, though, because we've been talking about it on a Celtic state of mind. I remember when Ange Postecoglou comes in and he's got such an overhaul of players, and at that time we had assets that had actually depreciated substantially in value in the preceding 12 months. We've cashed in on them, and you were looking around that squad, and it was, there was a few players that might have had a value in terms of the transfer market, but after the sales of Ayer, Edouard and Christie, you weren't quite sure. But now you've got half a dozen players, Lawrence, that we're going to get offers for them. The vultures are going to start circling Celtic Park. I think we've done particularly well to get to this stage without selling anybody, because obviously there was interest in the last transfer window. But again, it's unfinished business for me. People talk about O'Reilly. It was spoken about by the commentary team in the first half. Michael Stewart said, he's got time on his side. And most of the players with the interest, I think Juranovic, you made the point, Juranovic doesn't really, in terms of the selling value, Celtic probably don't either on that particular player. But all these other guys like Hatate and O'Reilly that undoubtedly will get interest, they've got time on his side. They don't have to leave Celtic right now.
Listen, it's kind of up to them what they do if they want to be here or not. I just said that, isn't he? But we've now got a system, or we're back to a system where we're buying players, with a sell-on value, and buying players to fit a system. If they want to go, would you trust Tosh and Ange to find an able replacement for them? Especially, the guy's saying 25 million for Rio. You're like, which leg, mate? Have you seen him? It's, so. But when if you were to hand that kitty to Tosh and Ange, could they go out and find another player like him? I'd say so. So players are going to leave us, but it's where we are. We know we rely heavily on ticket sales and transfer fees. It's not TV money for us that makes the difference. Mm. So we know that's part of our model. But
what about the DVDs?
Listen, mate, DVDs. I don't know, not the king you're talking about that raise money, but
moving swiftly on.
Wait,
you know how easily rumours can start on the internet.
We do well in merchandise, and I think Sian, she's done a great job there, hasn't she? Sian Brown, isn't it? Was brought in as the director to head all that up. I think Celtic, the merchandising stacks up, kind of return for the size of the club. So, we do well there, but the real money's really going to be in player sales, isn't it? That scouting department, what a profit that turns for the club just now. So if they move on, they get replaced, and it's just where we are as a club. We know that players aren't going to be forever. You're not going to get. There's not going to be many Callum McGregors or James Forrest that stay at Celtic for the majority of their career.
But sometimes, although I accept that, sometimes I think players go too soon.
Yeah, but it's whether you run your business well and you're forced to sell.
Do you think Tierney left too soon?
What, did he want to go? There's rumours either way. There's rumours that one of our managers would actually encouraged him to go on. I think he left too soon for most of the fans, didn't he? Mm. But that 25 million, he done a lot for Celtic. So you've got to remember, we sold him when he was injured. It wasn't, entirely certain he was coming back or how well he'd come back from that injury. And he's still got his injury problems at Arsenal.
He does. Aye, for sure.
That 25 million done a lot for us. It's like, remember when we were in Bellany, how much is a player worth to you? We could have signed players, but then we could have replaced the rest of the team. the team at the same level. So yeah, Tierney for me, and I think for fans probably left too soon. But I suppose we needed the money to reinvest in the team.
Bellers, like you say, the investment that we made rather than signing him was on Nakamura, Zaraski, Boric. So you look at the investment in terms of transfer fees and wages, that was the equivalent of what it would have cost to bring in Craig Bellamy. Gordon Strachan wrote about that in his book. Strachan was a fan of Bellamy, wanted to marry him up with Hartson because he knew both of those players from his time at Coventry. And that would have been a great partnership. But as you say, that Celtic do their business in a different way. What I mean by it as well, though, is I just think in terms of the players' development, you've got someone like O'Reilly, 21, Yabada, 20, Hatate.
In terms of development, I would say Tierney was more ready for the step up than O'Reilly, Abada, and where you are at the moment. I think it was seamless almost to step up to the Premier League for Kieran Tierney.
It was, yep, until the injuries started kicking back in.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So I don't think, you could be proved wrong if they move it and do it seamlessly, but I don't think we're quite that level where they do it seamlessly. Especially not Abada, although his numbers are frightening. I think he's got a lot to add.
He does have a lot. He's got consistency to add to his game. There's still a lack of, will he ever have the physical side? I'm not quite sure if he's built for that. You do see players transforming from the age of 20 to 25 though, Lawrence, so he might add some of that to his game. But, again, I'm not want to talk about selling players until we've won at least a couple of trebles. Beach Boys, 10 subs.
Jesus, mate. We're used to doing 4 in a row, we're not?
Yes. Well, get a couple under this regime and then we can rebuild. 10 subs, physio, both teams on 4 times, 3 goal celebrations, 1 added minute. That's the way it goes in Scottish football these days. We've mentioned it so many times, Lawrence, with the added time, haven't we?
I don't mind it so much in the cup games as long as we're winning when the final whistle goes. It's in a league that could make a difference, really, isn't it? And it's they just failure to apply the rules. It's just refs picking and choosing which rules they apply.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul O'Brien, great win. Hatate much tighter in the second half. Yep, took his goal brilliantly. It was a fantastic goal that was described. Let me bring the description up. Someone described it as a 5-a-side goal, and I knew exactly what they meant. I can't see the comment. But it is the type of thing you would see in the 5s or the 7-a-side games. Just really quality. John Sweeney. But again, that's a confidence thing, to have the audacity to actually pull it off.
But what was his options? Kelly, it was just his feet were so quick. It was just lovely to watch. Oh, he's a player, and maybe it's seen him closing Quayle go down like that in the first half and thought, you know what, have a bit of this. And but at 2-0 you can maybe try that, can't you?
Of course, yeah.
It's 0-0.
But I thought that particular goal followed a really good move. That everybody will remember the finish, but Aaron Moy done particularly well, and he opened it up. And I thought Abada to get the ball in for Hatate. I thought Abada done really, really well as well. So you might forget that because of the finish, but it was a great play to lead up and create the chance.
I think all night with great lead up play. It's
and Moy was at the heart of a lot of it, Lords.
Yeah, he was the hub of it, wasn't he? He looked so comfortable up there just now. Who else has really looked that comfortable at number 10? Haksabanovic, but he gives us more out in the wing as well. I don't think Turnbull's really done it when he's got a chance at 10. O'Reilly's looked good, but then again, he's apart from the first half, he had a couple of slack passes lying deeper. Second half, he looked more comfortable. Maybe it's just the adjustment, getting used to the position again. He played there for MK Dons.
Yeah. I mean, you have suggested Hatate will become the player of the year, but I'll tell you what, there's going to be quite a few people up for that award. When you mention the likes of the O'Reilly and the consistency of O'Reilly, then you've got players like Jota. I mean, he's been on fire until he got injured. Someone came in the first half. I didn't have time to bring it up, asking what is Jota's injury, how long is he going to be out for? But I'm not quite sure what the specific injury is. John Sweeney, that was far better half and more clinical, and a wee cheeky goal from Hatate. Here we go. It came in from a man called Son. Dominant performance, brilliant 5-a-side goal from Hatate, classy and humble from Kyogo after his goal. There was a sense that if the goal came for Kyogo, it would kind of settle him down a bit. I mean, I'm not saying he's a confidence player, but when you're missing chances and then some passes start to go awry as well, you start to wonder, we've seen it with Maeda in recent weeks as well. Lawrence, it was great to see Kyogo getting that goal.
Yeah, getting back into the habit, you don't want to get in the habit of missing chances. Yeah. A wee bit of relief from what it seemed like when they got the goal.
Yeah.
We'll see it coming weeks again. But it's good that he got it. Abada, though, that'd be a class hat-trick, wouldn't it? He was unlucky, but at least Kyle was put away the rebound.
For sure. Michael Stewart suggested that Abada had played it deliberately off the post. I know he's good, but come on. IH decorating, great win and another trip to Hampden for the domestic form really picking up onto Tynecastle in good shape. Yeah, because we really do have a glut of fixtures coming up that are going to be tricky. Some tricky away ties. IH decorating brings up the point that the domestic form has improved, Lawrence. It would be brilliant if we could take that domestic form onto the European stage and get a couple of results. I keep saying it with regards to the Bernabeu. I mean, they are not unbreachable. That's been shown in this campaign. But, it all starts at Shakhtar. It starts against Shakhtar, rather, at Celtic Park. And that's a game that I think Celtic can win.
Oh, look, listen, the game against Shakhtar away, I thought we're miles better than them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you'd expect us to win that. But we need to get these players experiencing winning the Champions League, don't we? And it's great to set something up, that there might be something riding on the Real Madrid game. But, yeah, take this format up against Shakhtar. We should be able to take care of them. I don't think they offer too much. They're winners, bit of speed merchant, but on balance, we should have been maybe 3-4 up. Mm-hmm. So it is about taking our chances again, isn't it?
I mean, the thing is, well, though, we do have the ability to pull an unlikely result on the biggest stage, Lawrence. And you know what? You also look at that and say to yourself, what would that do for the morale? What would that do for the rest of the season? It would be huge to go to Spain and get a result.
Yeah, if you beat Shakhtar and you beat Real Madrid away, it's got to give the players a lot of even more self-belief. It's got to, and for a manager, that'd be huge for him as well. This is a bigger stage. This is what I suppose what his career's been leading to, isn't it?
It'd be vindication. Yeah, it'd be vindication if he, steadfastly refuses to change his style and his approach and gets a result like that against a team like that.
See, I don't think he's even up for debate that he's going to change his style or his approach. It's brought him all the way here. Why would you change it? And I think, look, if you go back to the way that Celtic were running, we sold players when they wanted to go, we made a profit. 10 to 9 in a row, we changed that for the 10th season and it didn't work. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, you've got a system that works. What are you going to change it to? Has it become trial and error then? He's got a belief in the way we play football.
Yeah.
And it looks great, it's entertaining. In Europe, I think what we've been saying is similar to what we said to the first 7 or 8 games last year in the league. You had players confident, people confident to change it. This won't do. He needs to learn. You can't do that at this level. It's okay in Australia. It's okay in Japan. Won't work in Scotland. Stop with it. Done him all right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case for Europe as well. I think he'll stick with it.
And what better example that it's going to work in Europe than going to the Bernabeu and making it work. Donny Boy, welcome back to the show. Enjoying the game to watch some decent goals and a clean sheet. He'll go back in the score sheet, but I'd rather have seen Giakoumakis start, but hoping he starts against Hearts. Might be well suited against Hearts, actually. Here we go. Adrian Stone at 6 a.m. Where he is in Australia. Mate, there you go. Hope you're enjoying it. You're enjoying it, Adrian. Well done for tuning in. People setting their alarms to get up and watch the Celtic game. Tremendous. Beach Boys, Hatate and Moy superb. I agree with that. But what I've seen of Abelgard is he just kicks the ball the way he's facing. No better than McCarthy. Again, I think Abelgard's a player that we're going to have a wee bit of patience with, just because of the circumstances surrounding his career prior to signing for Celtic, Lawrence. And we're going to play the long game with him this season. I mean, I know that he's only here for a year or so, but I just think with Abelgard, you give him a wee bit of time because of the circumstances he was in, the fact he was training on his tods. It's going to take him a while to adapt, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It was a strange one to bring in when we're so well covered at the back, at that sixth position. But he looks like a player. It's just getting him up to speed, isn't it?
Yeah, he does. He definitely does.
He said no better than McCarthy. Yeah, they're both really experienced players. You'd be expecting him to be able to slot in when Callum's not there. But, geez, if we get, maybe not so much the first half, but if we get that second half that O'Reilly put in there, it's doubtful we'll need them.
Well, there is that, but I mean, it's good to have that depth in the squad. Danny boy, glad to see Kyogo get a goal, aren't we all, Danny? Good to see that second half display, very encouraging heading into Tynecastle. I'm sure there'll be a few other changes to that starting lineup when we go to Tynecastle at the weekend, obviously.
In Philadelphia, mate. God knows what time it is in Philadelphia.
Well, it's 10 p.m. in Iraq, says Derek Conway. Thanks for tuning in, Derek. And we'll also have a viewer, or viewers, who knows, in Kitchener, Southern Ontario. And that is the Tobago Street Police Station Celtic Supporters Club. If you're ever in the area, go and visit them. Absolutely. It's brilliant. I love seeing where all the listeners are tuning in from. And obviously, we've got a massive contingent now, Lawrence, tuning in from Australia. So we see all the stats, and it's an absolute pleasure to be joining you after the games and on a weekday for the Acsom Bulletin. We'll be back tomorrow at 12:30, of course, myself and JP, to chew the fat on all things Celtic, and we might throw a wee bit of music in there as well, Lawrence. We've got a really exciting Celtic music project coming up for Christmas that I know you are all going to love. We have raised now, we're going to announce the latest donation that we've made to charity, but we have raised just over 80 grand now over the piece, Lawrence, and we're hoping to push that up to just over 100 grand by the end of the year, all for good causes, of course, which will be announced, and we might be splitting the money this Christmas because of where communities are at the minute, there's a lot of people needing some assistance, much needed assistance, which the Acsom fan base or audience can get together. We can make special things happen, Lawrence. We've proven that a couple of times. So look forward to announcing that. Don't want to give the game away yet, but when we do, I'm pretty sure you'll be impressed. You know what I'm talking about, Lawrence. You've
of course, I've got my ear to the ground, mate.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've been given a wee teaser, a sneak peek. Thanks everybody for getting involved. I'll let you get on with your night, and hopefully the draw is kind to Celtic because we're going back to Hampden for the semi-final with the Premier Sports Cup, or the League Cup as I like to call it, to regain the trophy hopefully this season. Go for a double, why not even a treble, Lawrence?
Semi-final with VAR. How Ronnie Daly must wished, he could have been a treble winning manager if they'd been VAR at that semi.
Would the VAR have made a difference? Who knows? But yeah, thanks everybody for getting involved, and thank you once again, Lawrence Connolly, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.